What do you think about a remix contest of one of your tracks? My question was, I'm really struggling to make my tunes danceable. My music feels like something cool to listen to, but not to dance to. Would a second DOM's A Lot of IDs in a Row mix be considered? Can you please comment some software that can run Windows-only plugins on Mac OS X operating systems? So I apologise for what I said about Rattle earlier on. Hey guys, welcome to the Kane audio vlog. It is Friday. It's time for another Ask Me Anything. Usual rules apply. Comment anything you want below this video and I'll get back to you in next week's video. Before I look at last week's video, is there any house admin? First of all, apologies. I think there's still marks on my face. I've literally just got back in from doing a food shop for, well, partly my family, but also in-laws. Which is not so much fun these days, so I hope all of you are safe and well and sensible, and I hope that all of you are able to get your food shop done. It's not as easy as it used to be, I can say that much. I have also literally just this second updated tonal display on Spotify, so if you are at home quarantining or whatever, or if you're not, whatever you're doing, if you're at work but able to have headphones, then check out Spotify, search my name, I guess, or search tonal display on Spotify and it'll show up. Otherwise there'll be a link below this video, there always is. Yeah, I've made it just over 2 hours this time. So yeah, there's plenty there to listen to and keep you occupied. I think that's it in terms of house admin. I'm sure it's the same for everyone watching this video if you're watching in real time. Everything's just a bit weird now, isn't it? Just, yeah, everything from, you know, like I say, doing a food shop to people like myself who are kind of able to do some work, for which I'm very fortunate, and I'm incredibly fortunate that I get to work from home anyway, so yeah, but even still it's all gone very weird. There we go. So, not wanting to make it all about coronavirus, let's have a look. Starting at the top, Not Your Human. Hi Dom, sorry for the late reply. One of our family members passed away recently, so that's why I was late. Well, you do not need to apologise for anything if that's the case, and my heart goes out to you, and I hope that the rest of your family are doing as well as can be. My question was, I'm really struggling to make my tunes danceable. My music feels like something cool to listen to, but not to dance to. I'm not making IDM, it's just that how it sounds or feels for me. Does everyone struggle with this, or is it just me? I think there are probably lots of people who struggle with this, but it's definitely not everyone. But I do get what you're saying. But I think the big thing I'll say is, does it matter? Do your tracks need to be danceable? I kind of don't really feel like they need to be. I mean, certainly the music I'm doing these days is more and more listenable than danceable, to be honest, and I find myself that's where I'm heading anyway. So if you're doing the same, good. You know, I don't that's not a bad thing. So you know, we've sort of talked about on this channel, or I've talked a fair bit about you know, if I was to set up a record label, some of you may have seen some clues recently. If I was going to set up a record label, wink wink nudge nudge, then I would want to make it somewhat different in this day and age. And I think I'm personally fed up of seeing record labels that are, you know, big dance hits and nightclub this and DJ that, and I feel like That's not to say there's not a place in the world for them. There obviously is. That's 99% of electronic music labels out there. But I feel like there's also a whole gap at the minute for people like myself that, you know, fathers and husbands who, and of course wives and mothers, who maybe used to go raving or whatever, but now don't really get the chance because we've got kids. The people who maybe want to go to an art gallery on a Saturday afternoon instead of the local dive bar at 2 a.m. So I think if you want to make your records danceable, then it's a problem. If you're not bothered, then it's definitely not a problem, because I think there's a whole market out there for people who listen to music. I mean, I opened this video up with telling you that my Spotify playlist has been updated. That's very much a listening thing. It's not a dancing thing. So yeah, you tell me if you want to make it more danceable, then maybe we can talk more about that. Maybe there are some tips and tricks to make something more danceable. I don't know. But I would say, first and foremost, it doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. And also, you know, it's different strokes for different folks. You know, some people might find one thing danceable. You know, for example, I don't understand how someone can go to a dubstep event and listen to dubstep for more than 10 minutes. I like dubstep. I appreciate it from a distance. You know, I've got friends who are very well-known dubstep producers, but again, I can't listen to much more than 10 minutes. It's just a subjective thing. I don't understand how people can dance to it. Same goes for heavy metal and actually most metal rock stuff. I don't get how people can dance to that. It doesn't make me ever want to dance. But they do, because that's their thing and it's not my thing, and that's the point I'm trying to make, I think. So yeah, there we go. Fanfan87, salut Dom, Max, high five. Ask as many questions as you can, you said. Let's do this. Okay, I can see there's 5 here. Well, probably good. 1. What's your opinion on Matt Lang or Lange? Now, I always thought it was Lange, but I've heard several people say Lang, so I feel like it's Matt Lang. My opinion on him: as a person, I don't know. Don't know him at all. Never spoken to him. I've probably seen a few of his Facebook posts, and I've not managed to gather any personality data from that. Musically, though, I really like his work, and I think he puts a lot of effort and passion into his music, and I think that is a very good thing. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else I can say about it. 2, considering your brackets melodic techno approach and your technical skills to both of you, what about a collaboration on a track/EP if you ever considered it? Do you know what? I'm not a very collaborating person. I think I'm a bit too selfish. Musically, I'm very selfish. And so based on that alone, I'm not very good at collaborations. What it ends up being, if I'm totally honest, is somebody comes up with an idea of a track and I treat it as a remix and I just take over and finish it, which is not very collaborative. It's something I need to work on. Both universes are different, but a fusion of these would be very interesting. Yeah, so I think his sound would probably work very well if we were talking sort of my melodies and his modular sounds. I think that would work very well. However, I don't know the guy, so it's unlikely that we would ever collaborate, because I'd be surprised if he even really knows anything about me other than my name. I'm sure he's probably heard 1 or 2 of my tracks, but I don't know. I doubt I'm in his radar. 3, would a second Dom's A Lot of IDs in a Row mix be considered? maybe. I enjoyed doing the first one. I gave a couple of cheeky previews to some very draft versions of album tracks in there, and I was happy to do that. And I'm fairly sure those tracks, the ones that I put in there, I can't even remember which ones I put in there, but I'm fairly sure that the album tracks that I did put in there have been completely revamped since then. So it's quite nice that those are really early versions and the album has gone a different direction, and that's good. However, I don't know. I don't know. It was a lot of work, is basically what I'm saying. It's a lot of work for little to no return, basically. So I don't know. Number 4, when are your next releases? So it was going to be around July, but that's now been pushed back because of everything that's going on these days. So I think the next one will probably be my album, which I'm looking at around September now, so it's going to be a while yet. Yeah, so we'll see, unless an empty space comes up on a label that I work with, then yeah, I think it'll probably be September now. And 5, what do you think about a remix contest of one of your tracks if the question hasn't been asked previously? It has been asked previously, but I'm happy for it to be asked again. It's actually something I'm considering for later this year. Again, when it comes to album time, I think maybe that's probably a good time to do it. So yeah, there we go. Good questions. Have a great weekend. Hope you had enough questions this week. Thank you very much. Next, Silent Moria. Hello, Dom. I came from metal. I played electric guitar. Well, in which case I apologise for what I said about metal earlier on. I heard bands like Death, Metallica, Slayer, etc. Then one day my brother arrived with a mixtape. I mean, it was from Roland Brandt. And when I heard Marco Carola Apollo 13, I knew I wanted to make this music. It was a simple track, but really cool and hypnotic. I then bought 12-tone Cakewalk 4 and Quasmidi Raven Max Synth, year 1995. I remember the Raven name being around, but that's going back a long time. In principle, a Roland Brandt mixtape was the trigger for me to throw the guitar in the corner and buy a synth. And now my question, what was the trigger for you? So I first fell in love with dance music, electronic music, probably very late 80s, early 90s. One of my older sisters came home with a cassette from some rave, and I remember hearing what I now know to be a Hoover preset on a synth and thinking, what on earth is that noise? Up until then I was into classical and jazz, and so I knew instruments. I mean, I was 8, 9, 10, so I knew violin. I'd played violin and trumpet and whatever, and I knew these instruments, and I knew piano and whatever. I didn't know the synthesizer at the time, and this was my sort of first opening, and I just remember thinking, what is making that noise? And and that was kind of the start of it for me. In terms of producing music, though, that came a few years later, so I got fully into the whole rave thing and the whole house thing, and the whole acid house thing. And then weirdly, my English teacher in school was big into techno, and he was a big fan of Laurent Garnier's album had just come out, and so my English teacher had decided to once a week in school during lunchtime show, there was me and one other kid I think, show us how to use a 4-track recorder, how to use pretty sure it was an Atari with the tracker software, and a MIDI keyboard, and he just showed us how to sort of get it all up and running and recording. So that was my sort of first introduction to production, I suppose. There we go. Andrew Hollis, even. Max, high five. Reminder, space, time, colour. Yes, I'm glad you reminded me, because I saw that comment come in during the week, and I was on my way to load up the computer at the time, and I thought, I'll check that out, and I didn't. I got carried away with something else, obviously. Keep reminding me. Give me another reminder this week. Whoever's watching right now, just comment space, time, colour. I personally think there are some powerful effects chains in there. On the subject of Bitwig, good time to do those tips and tricks videos you've been promising. Yes, it is, but also a weird time as well. So I kind of apologise that I'm not really apologising, but I'm apologising in advance that where I felt like this whole quarantine thing was going to allow me to have a lot of free time to be able to do these things. I've actually been fairly busy, somewhat controlling chaos around everything, so it's not quite as easy as I thought, but I will definitely bear this in mind. It is something I definitely want to do. So there we go. And Jadranko Vitayak, hi Dom, can you please comment some software that can run Windows only plugins on Mac OS X operating systems? There used to be some wrapper, I can't remember what it was now. However, it was so full of bugs, and it just wasn't worth recommending, basically. And that's the only thing I've ever heard of since then, and that was probably 10-15 years ago. So I would say no, because there probably isn't one that, well, there certainly isn't one that I'm aware of yet. The only thing really, if you need to use Windows specific, the best, which is not easy, but the best way I would suggest doing it is if you have some virtual management software like VMware Fusion, I think it's called, which allows you to run Windows in a window inside macOS. And then if you can send an audio out to then feed into an audio in through macOS, so you load up Windows, install Bitwig or Ableton or whatever it is you use in Windows in macOS, and then use one to send out and feed in a MIDI, so you're treating them as though they're two separate computers, and you're using one with an external MIDI to trigger. I'm sure you can get virtual MIDI, or what's it called, OSC should do it. If you look up look up OSC, like oscillator and things like that, that's MIDI over Wi-Fi. But it's not easy. Like I say, none of this is easy, but this is probably the best way of doing it if you have to do it. So I would use something like VMware Fusion. I would use something like Oscillator and convert MIDI signals from, if I opened up, say I'm going to talk about Bitwig because that's what I use. So I had Bitwig in macOS, and then I would load VMware Fusion, load Bitwig inside that as well. I'd go to the Mac and use Oscillator or something similar to send MIDI to Wi-Fi, and then use the VMware Fusion Windows account version of Bitwig to receive that MIDI, and then send audio out through a sound card through one channel, and then bring that straight back in through another channel, reading in to macOS Bitwig. That would be my way of doing it. It's not a nice way of doing it, but that's kind of the only way that I think kind of works. It's probably the most stable way of doing it, even though it's probably the most convoluted way of doing it. I get the new OSZ Genesis Pro. Okay, synth, but it's Windows only, and I can't find a solution to get it to run on Mac that I'm using with latest version of OS X 10.15.4. Thanks in advance. PS, not to struggle with my name, just say Adrian. It's the same in English. I didn't say Adrian, I said Jadranko, but I assume that's okay. So you're welcome. Yeah, so I've seen the Genesis Pro. Well, I'm sure everyone watching this has seen the Genesis Pro. They've obviously done a lot of key promotion with it. Personally, I've not got my hopes up because I saw that it was Windows only. It's 32-bit. It's made in, was it SynthEdit or something like that? The presets sound great, but I feel like you'd probably need, I could be completely wrong on this, but I feel like you'd probably need a dedicated PC just to run that thing. If it's made in SynthEdit and made over 8 years and has all of those features and functions in SynthEdit, it's going to be really processor hungry. So I personally, I probably wouldn't get your hopes up too much. I would imagine if it's a success, I'm guessing that he'll use whatever money he makes from that to then get a Mac version or a 64-bit version at least. But who knows? I feel like I don't want to be unkind, but I feel like maybe the advertising of that thing is somewhat better than the reality. I don't know. And interestingly, I also saw loads of people and loads of friends getting really hyped for it when it got released. As far as I'm aware, it's now out, and I haven't heard anyone say anything about it. So I don't know. Maybe that speaks volumes. Who knows? And finally, Ricky John, Max, high five. If I think of more questions, I'll edit. Like the idea about recording/streaming yourself working on your album would definitely be interesting to see. Yeah, so I have considered this, and I'm still considering it. I might just do an ad hoc live stream while I gather some bits of the album. I just have to be careful that I'm not basically just live streaming the whole album out, because that's not doing myself any favors, especially when, as I let on earlier on in the video, that I'm looking for release in September now, so we've got quite a long way to go. So yes, that is it, my friends. We've kept it we've kept it 20 minutes, so been pretty quick this time, especially considering FanFan87 gave us 5 questions. So in which case, I'm going to tell everyone, give me more questions. But seriously, ask me anything you want. That is indeed the title of this video. So yeah, I do like these things. Keep them coming, especially now we're all in quarantine, or pretty much all of us are in quarantine now. Yeah, they are definitely becoming more valuable for me as well as everyone else, I think, just for my own sanity. And to show that you've made it this far into the video, I'm gonna say comment the word arena, because YouTube is weirdly recommending Ibiza Classics live at the O2 Arena. So comment the word arena and you'll get a high five from me next week. Please do check out the Spotify playlist. If you are new to the channel or not, please do subscribe. To those of you that do subscribe, you know, we want this channel to grow. We want more questions and more people to bring in fresh questions. So I would say your challenge of this week is to share this video, because I don't tell anyone ever to share these videos, but it would be great if you could share these videos with your friends or whoever you think might be interested. Hopefully they're useful to someone. I'll see you this time next week. Cheers.